The rain had turned the November roads into rivers of mud, and Vivian Thornton arrived in Hawthorne Village with nothing but a battered trunk and a letter of introduction that felt heavier than lead in her reticule. The year was 1847, and London had finished with her 6 months prior, though the whispers would follow her for years yet. She had not asked for scandal. She had merely been present when Lord Pascoe's wife discovered him in the conservatory with another woman, and Vivian, emerging from behind a potted fern where she had been sketching architectural details, had been assumed complicit. The explanation had been disbelieved. The damage, immediate and irreversible. Her aunt had written coldly that the family name could bear no further association. Her modest inheritance, managed by a cousin who saw opportunity in her disgrace, had been declared tied up in complications that would take years to resolve. The position as companion to elderly Mrs. Dalby in Yorkshire had appeared like a miracle, though Vivian suspected it was less divine intervention than the difficulty of finding anyone willing to live in such profound isolation. Hawthorne was not picturesque. It was a collection of grey stone cottages huddled against the moor, a single coaching inn, and a Norman church whose bell tower leaned slightly westward as though trying to escape. Mrs. Dalby's cottage sat at the far end of the village, but the driver insisted on stopping at the inn first. "Earl's orders," he said gruffly. "Anyone coming to the village reports to Thornbury Hall first." Vivian's fatigue made her reckless. "I am employed by Mrs. Dalby, not the Earl." "Makes no difference. His land, his rules." Thornbury Hall appeared through the mist, like something from a Gothic tale her mother had once read aloud. It was Jacobean, all dark stone and mullioned windows, with ivy claiming the eastern wing. The gardens had once been formal, but now grew wild, roses tangling with thorn bushes in a way that seemed deliberate, as though the house were fortifying itself. A servant, ancient and taciturn, led her to a library that smelled of leather, smoke, and something else. Chemicals, perhaps. Scientific instruments cluttered a desk near the window. Star charts covered one wall. Books lay open across every surface, many in languages Vivian recognized: Latin, Greek, French, and some she did not. "Miss Thornton." She turned. The man in the doorway was perhaps 35, tall, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples. His face bore a scar from temple to jaw on the left side, the tissue puckered and pale. He wore no coat despite the cold, only shirt sleeves and a waistcoat, and he carried a leather-bound notebook. "Lord Thornbury," she said, curtsying. "You're educated." It was not a question. His eyes, gray, sharp, had moved to the book she had unconsciously picked up, Kepler's Astronomia Nova. She set it down quickly. "My father believed daughters should read," she said. "And yet you arrive here as a paid companion." The words were not cruel, merely observational, but they struck like a blade. Vivian lifted her chin. "Circumstances change, my lord. I am grateful for employment." Something flickered across his scarred face. "You're from London?" "I was. Why did you leave?" The directness startled her. In London, such questions would be wrapped in innuendo and false courtesy. "I was involved in a scandal not of my making. The truth was unimportant." He studied her for a long moment. "Mrs. Dalby is difficult. She will ask you to read to her for hours. She dislikes contradiction. She has dismissed 4 companions in 2 years. Then I shall endeavor to be the 5th who stays." The corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile. "You may use the hall's library. Mrs. Dalby's collection is limited." "That is generous, my lord. It is practical. Intelligent conversation is rare here. I would prefer you not become so stupefied by boredom that you flee back to London." He left without further ceremony. Vivian stood in the library, aware that something unexpected had just occurred, though she could not name it. Mrs. Dalby proved exactly as described, imperious, demanding, and possessed of an encyclopedic memory for grievances. She was 73, partially deaf, and had been beautiful once. The portraits in her sitting room testified to that. She had been mistress to a duke in her youth, a fact she mentioned frequently and without shame. "You're plain," she announced on Vivian's first evening, after inspecting her by candlelight. "Good. Pretty girls are always plotting to leave. You'll stay because you have nowhere else to go." It was true, and therefore unanswerable. The routine established itself quickly. Mornings were devoted to reading aloud. Mrs. Dalby favored scandalous French novels and agricultural reports in equal measure. Afternoons, Vivian wrote letters at the old woman's dictation, letters full of caustic observations about neighbors she had not seen in decades. Evenings were her own. She walked the moors despite the November cold. The landscape was brutal and beautiful, all wind-bent grass and stone outcroppings, with the ruins of an ancient abbey visible on a distant hill. Sometimes she saw the Earl riding, always alone, his black horse moving fast across the open ground as though pursued. In the village, she learned things. The Earl had inherited 8 years ago when his older brother died in a hunting accident. He had been traveling in Egypt at the time, studying ancient mathematics. He had returned, closed the London house, dismissed most of the staff, and buried himself in Thornbury Hall. The scar had come from the same accident that killed his brother. He had been present, had tried to save him, had failed. He never attended church. He never hosted. He was seen only when riding or when conducting business with his tenants, whom he treated with scrupulous fairness but no warmth. The village called him haunted. The local gentry called him mad. Vivienne called him nothing, but she thought of him. The library became her refuge. She went always in late afternoon when she knew he would be riding. She read Galileo and Newton, Herschel and Humboldt. She sketched the mechanical orrery in the corner, trying to understand its construction. She left notes in the margins of her own readings, questions about orbital mathematics and celestial mechanics, not expecting answers, but answers came, in a different hand, precise and assured. Corrections to her calculations, recommendations for further reading. Once, a small diagram explaining a concept she had struggled with. They never spoke of it, but the conversation continued, silent and strange, through the medium of books and paper. Winter deepened. Mrs. Dalby's health worsened. The doctor came from Whitby, spoke in low tones, prescribed laudanum. Vivienne sat with her through the long nights, reading by candlelight, watching the old woman's restless sleep. It was during one such night, in early December, that the Earl appeared at the cottage door. Snow had been falling for hours. He carried a leather case. The doctor sent word that her lungs are failing, he said without preamble. I have something that may help. Vivienne let him in. He set up a strange apparatus, a steam inhaler of his own design, he explained, based on principles he had studied in Vienna. The mechanics were elegant. The relief it provided was immediate. Mrs. Dalby's breathing eased. You made this? Vivienne asked, watching him adjust the apparatus. I have time and tools. Why not use them? Most men of your station would consider such things beneath them. His scarred face turned toward her. Most men of my station are fools. She laughed before she could stop herself. He looked startled, then something softened in his expression. You should sleep, he said. I'll stay until dawn. If her condition worsens, I'll wake you. You don't have to. I know. She fell asleep in the chair by the fire and woke to gray light and silence. The Earl was gone. The inhaler remained, with written instructions in his precise hand. Mrs. Dalby was sleeping peacefully. On the table was a book, Mary Somerville's On the Connection of the Physical Sciences. Inside the cover, a note. You asked about perturbations in planetary motion. This explains it better than I could. The gift felt more intimate than it should have. Mrs. Dalby rallied. By Christmas, she was well enough to be tyrannical again. Vivienne found herself oddly grateful for the old woman's sharp tongue and endless demands. They were normal, solid, real. The Earl sent a basket for Christmas, hothouse oranges, French chocolates, a bottle of excellent sherry. The card read only, For your health and patience, A.W. Mrs. Dalby cackled. He's half in love with you already, girl. I know the signs. Don't be absurd. I've had 3 lovers and refused 2 proposals. I know when a man is circling. But Vivienne told herself the old woman was mistaken. The Earl was merely kind, merely intellectual, merely lonely. She told herself this even as she began taking her afternoon walks closer to the routes where she knew he rode. January brought a hard freeze. The roads became impassable. The village turned inward. Vivienne's world contracted to Mrs. Dalby's cottage, the church on Sundays, and the Hall's library, which she now visited with the Earl's explicit permission, delivered via a brief note. Come when you wish. No need to wait until I'm absent. She found him there one afternoon, working at his desk. He glanced up when she entered, but did not speak. She selected a book, Laplace's Mécanique Céleste, and settled in a chair by the window. They read in silence for an hour. Do you miss London? He asked suddenly. She considered. I miss what I thought London was. I don't miss what it actually was, which is a place where appearance matters more than truth. He set down his pen. You were wrongly accused, yes, and no one defended you. My family found it more convenient to believe the worst. Then your family are cowards. The bluntness shocked her, then warmed her. You don't know the circumstances. I know enough. You're here, reading Laplace by choice, copying mechanical diagrams for pleasure, asking questions about mathematics that most women of your class wouldn't deign to consider. You're wasted as a companion. I'm fortunate to have employment. You're fortunate to have escaped a world too small to contain you. She stared at him. He held her gaze, something fierce and certain in his expression. I should go, she managed. You should stay. Mrs. Dalby is napping. Her maid sent word an hour ago. Vivian remained in her chair. Her heart was doing something erratic. Why do you never go to London? She asked. His jaw tightened. Because I killed my brother. The words fell like stones. It was an accident, he continued, his voice level. We were hunting. His horse startled. He fell badly. I tried to reach him, but the same branch that threw him struck me. He touched the scar. I was unconscious for hours. When I woke, he was dead. My father never forgave me. He died believing I should have saved Thomas. Perhaps he was right. You couldn't have. I was the younger son, the spare, the scholar. Thomas was everything a first son should be. Charming, capable, beloved. I should have died instead. Everyone thought it. I don't. He looked at her with such raw surprise that she realized no one had ever said that to him. You don't know me, he said quietly. I know you invented a device to help an old woman breathe. I know you maintain your brother's estate with care. I know you answer questions written in book margins by a woman you barely know. I know you're not a killer. The silence stretched. Snow fell past the windows. Somewhere in the house, a clock chimed 4. Vivian, he said, and it was the first time he had used her given name. If you stay in this village, people will talk. They already are. The reclusive Earl and the scandalous woman from London. Let them talk. You could leave, go to Edinburgh or Paris. Your inheritance is controlled by a cousin who will release it only when he chooses, which may be never. I could help. I don't want charity. Then what do you want? The question hung between them. Vivian rose, crossed to where he sat, and did something she had not planned. She took his hand. His fingers were ink-stained, scarred from some old chemical burn. They closed around hers. I want to stop running from false accusations, she said. I want to stop pretending I'm not interested in things women aren't supposed to care about. I want to stop being invisible. You could never be invisible. You didn't even look at me the first time we met. I looked. I simply didn't let you see me looking. Her breath caught. He stood, still holding her hand, so close now she could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. I'm not a good prospect, he said. I'm scarred and reclusive, and half the county thinks me mad. I have no interest in London or society. I will never be charming. I don't want charming. What do you want, Vivian? You, she said. This, the library and the moors and the conversation and the silence. I want this. He kissed her then, carefully, as though she might break. She kissed him back, and there was nothing careful about it. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Marry me. That's madness. Marry me anyway. People will say you're taking advantage of my situation. People already say I'm mad. Let them add inappropriate to the list. She laughed, and it sounded like relief. Yes. Yes? Yes, Adrian. Yes. The scandal, when it broke, was exactly as predicted. The gentry called it shocking. The village called it inevitable. Mrs. Dalby called it about damned time and insisted on attending the wedding despite her lungs. They married in March, in the leaning church, with only Mrs. Dalby, the vicar, and 2 tenant farmers as witnesses. Vivian wore a dress of deep green wool, practical and beautiful. Adrian wore his brother's watch and his own scarred face without shame. The wedding breakfast was held in the hall's dining room, the first time that room had been used in 8 years. Mrs. Dalby drank too much sherry and told scandalous stories. The tenant farmers looked uncomfortable. Adrian held Vivian's hand under the table. That night, in the master chamber that had been closed since his brother's death, Adrian opened the curtains to let in the moonlight. I don't know how to be a husband, he said. I only know how to be alone. Then we'll learn together, Vivian said. I don't know how to be a wife. I only know how to be inconvenient. He smiled. A real smile, the first she had seen. Be as inconvenient as you like, she was. She converted the music room into a studio and filled it with books and instruments and sketches. She walked the moors in all weather. She learned estate management from the steward and argued with Adrian about crop rotation and drainage. She wrote to astronomers in Berlin and mathematicians in Paris, using her married name without apology. Adrian reopened the London house, not to live in, but to host lectures and scientific demonstrations. He published papers under both their names. He had the East Wing renovated into laboratories and workshops. Mrs. Dalby lived another 3 years, long enough to see Vivian's first child born. A daughter with her mother's determination and her father's gray eyes. The old woman held the baby once, pronounced her likely to be trouble, and died peacefully in her sleep a week later. By then, Vivian had stopped counting the scandals. She was the Countess of Thornbury, and if London society still whispered about her, it hardly mattered. She had found something better than acceptance. She had found a place where intelligence was celebrated, where silence was comfortable, where the past was acknowledged, but not defining. She had found partnership with a man who understood that love was not about perfection, but about choosing each other, deliberately and repeatedly, despite every reason not to. On their 5th anniversary, Adrian presented her with a telescope he had built himself, precise and powerful. "So you can see further," he said. She kissed him in the library where they had first truly spoken, surrounded by books and instruments and the quiet evidence of their shared life. "I can see perfectly," she said. "I can see us." And that finally was enough.